Welcome to the Self-Help Workshop with your host, John Farr. Episode 43, Remembering Bob Proctor. All right, hello, self-helpers. Welcome to another podcast, episode 43. And today, we're going to take a little time and we're going to celebrate and remember Bob Proctor. Now, if you don't know who Bob Proctor was, because he passed away on February 3rd, 2022, he was in his 80s, great guy, a philosopher, spiritual teacher, really a life success teacher, mentor to thousands of people, probably hundreds of thousands of people, maybe even millions of people. You may have first heard of Bob from the movie The Secret. That was kind of a breakthrough movie for him as far as getting him out in the public known because the movie was such a success. However, he was really, in the personal development field, he was really well known for years and years and years. If you dive into the personal development, self-help, personal growth, whatever you want to call it, he was really one of the big shot teachers. And I don't mean big shot as like Tony Robbins celebrities thing, just a big time guy who had the ability to connect with people and teach them and have them see the results in their lives. And so I studied with Bob Proctor for about a year and maybe 2 years, and I really dove into his materials, and it's wonderful stuff. He really, he teaches the law of attraction. He teaches vibrational energy. He teaches goal setting, decision making. I mean, he's, if you don't know his story, listen to some Bob videos and you'll get his story really, really quickly. If I could just say a few words about him. He was just like any of us. He was Canadian, and he grew up with a set of beliefs, and he wasn't getting the results he wanted. And in his 20s, someone showed him a different way of doing things, and they gave him the book Think and Grow Rich, and he started reading it, and he started setting goals, and he read it every day, kept studying, and then his life kept changing for the better, and then he became really curious about what happened to him. And he became utterly fascinated with this idea that you create your own reality and that your thoughts, feelings create your reality. And so he studied it every day and began teaching it. And now he went out on his own, I think it was 1971. So if you go back and look at what was going on in the personal growth, New Age was just coming out. I mean, Bob was really there. He's really a frontier man, really. Psi Seminars came out, I believe, in 71, and Jane Roberts was releasing the Seth books back in the early 70s. I think the first Seth book might have been 1970, Seth Speaks. And so very similar material, and Bob just has a nice way of putting it. He puts his own spin on it, and I think he really brings it home. He really takes it from these abstract ideas, and he really has a way of breaking it down and making it applicable to your life. And so I love Bob. I've had the chance to meet him. I was on a call with him every 2 weeks for about 13 months. And he's just a wonderful person. He's influenced a lot of people. He's a great speaker. If you ever had the chance to see him live, you just know he's a phenomenal speaker. Studied with Bill Gove. Bill Gove, the father of the speaking world, speaking business. I mean, Bob, studied with him, and Bob would continue to study with him. And just a guy full of giving and a great person. And the thing about Bob is Bob put together audio programs. Bob's, if you said what's one thing about Bob Proctor, we'll say two things. We'll say the stick person and the law of repetition. They're the two things that Bob really, really taught me. And so the stick person, it's this idea that your thoughts, your conscious thoughts control the feelings, and your feelings control the results. And so Bob has this picture of a stick person, a big head, put a line through the middle. Top half of the circle is your conscious thoughts. The second half of the circle is your subconscious, which is your feelings, and then they move through the body and you get your results. So thoughts control the feelings, feelings control the results. So that's one. And then the repetition. And so your beliefs create your thoughts, your beliefs create your paradigm, and your paradigm creates your reality. And so there's only two ways to change your paradigm. One is by traumatic experience, and the other is through repetition of new information. And so that was Bob's thing, is rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. That this idea that you can create your own reality, and so that was his thing. And Bob would study, and he encouraged people to study. And one thing I can say for myself, following Bob's suggestions, his teachings, is that even when I branched out and went into other programs, and I went to other seminars and did even the experiential things, I noticed a difference. That one thing that Bob really brings home is this idea of studying, this idea of repetition. And it's a very big part of how we learn. I mean, think about it. How do we learn? We learn through repetition. And so, it's the repetition of what our parents say to us, what the media says to us, what our friends say to us, and all that creates these beliefs about ourselves. And so and the beliefs end up, creating our paradigm, and our paradigm creates our reality. And that's really it in a nutshell. And so Bob says, if you don't like that, well, change your beliefs. So how do you change your beliefs? You change your paradigm. How do you change your paradigm? Through repetition. And so I've got just books and books and books of notes of Bobisms, what I think, what we could say. And I'm going to just page through a few of these things. These are just notes. I was on a call, and I'll just give you some Bob nuggets here, some things. And so Bob, if you've been around Bob, you'll hear the phrase, "I am so happy and grateful now that." And so that's an affirmation that Bob would encourage people to do. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities from multiple sources on a continuous basis. He would say, just say these things to yourself. I'm so happy and grateful now that money comes to me from multiple sources in increasing quantities on a continuous basis. And so any idea, whether true or false, if you tell yourself it over and over and over and over and over again, and you add a little emotion, you get emotionally involved in it, this idea, your subconscious will accept it, and that will end up becoming your reality. So Bob always would challenge you. Like, say, I'm just going through some notes here. What do you do when you first wake up? He would challenge you. He would say, like, what do you do when you first wake up? Like, how are you spending your day? And he would say, are you doing the inner work? What are you doing first thing in the morning? Are you planning your life, or are you responding to someone else's life? He would say, trust yourself to the higher power. One thing Bob would say a lot is you don't need to know how you're going to get there. You just need to know you are going to get there. It's another note here. When your vibration changes, your perception changes. You're going to attract different things. And so it's a really important thing, because we talk about vibration a lot in personal growth, because it's important. We do. Einstein said it too. He's like, just tune into the frequency that you want, and it has to happen. And so, Bob understood that. So let me repeat that. When your vibration changes, your perception changes. You're going to attract different things. And so Bob also loved this book called U Squared by Price Pritchard. And it's a great book. It's a quick read. It's a wonderful book. And, there's a couple quotes in the book. Make the quantum leap. The book's about making the quantum leap. Make the breakthrough. You can have exponential gains. Demand radical departure from your habits. And another thing Bob talked about was discipline. I got a note here. If you want to win, you need discipline. You do. There's some more notes. Just be great. And Bob would ask this question a lot. What is it you want to create? He'd suggest do the inner work when the mind is most quiet. And so, when you're doing a program with Bob, he would say our job is to change our programs. Become aware that we have awesome power. He said we tend to live by years and plan by years. Where do you want to be a year from now? And so he'd actually, he would say things like, what the mind of man can conceive, he can achieve. Bob was really big with changing your thoughts. He would say, like, how to change a thought? You add a new thought and you get connected to it. You get emotional to it. And he would say, connect with the evidence, jump up and down. The world is just a reflection of what you are thinking, feeling. What is today a benchmark for? Every morning, focus on your dreams right when you wake up. Be patient and not be resistant. Be patient and not be resistant. That's a great one. Another note, trust to the higher power. Another question, how often are you working on this? Are you really putting all of you into it? So that's one thing Bob would challenge you. He would ask you that. Are you putting everything into it? Are you doing this daily? And he would say, stay in the work, not part-time. Nothing worthy and great is fast. I mean, it's just so true. Nothing worthy is great and fast. Start believing whatever you want to be. Full-time. Make it emotional. Get connected. Find evidence. They got the word conceive here. Learn to imagine. Set targets, goals, things you want. Beliefs. To attract, you need emotion. Attach emotion to it. Feel the result. Not just think it, live it, emotionally, spiritually. And so he talks sometimes about this idea of thinking, and he'd question you, who's going to win in your head? The trick is to keep those changed thoughts. He's like, it's a battle. You've got it, but repetition will win out. And he'd also question you, when do you want the results? Right now? Well, start thinking right now. So, geez, I got so many notes with Bob here. I'm going to change books here. I'm going to just page to a different book here. All right. I believe this one was from a seminar I was at with him in person. And so here's another great idea from Bob, is that we're spiritual beings living in a physical body. Now, for some people, that may be news to you, but if you think about it, you kind of realize that it's true. And if you've read the Seth material, you'll really get a greater understanding of just how big the spiritual world is, the psychological world, the psychic world. And so that's one thing what Bob would say is like, you're a spiritual being we're living in a physical body. And so it starts on the physical level. And he would say that your spirit is truth. It's perfection. It's 100% present. It's omnipresent. It's 100% present everywhere. And he would say, like, energy is neither created nor destroyed. And we've been given creative powers. And that's another big idea that Bob teaches, that we are creative. We are creative beings. And that's our job here on this planet, is to be creative. That knowledge is all around us, that we can just tap into it and it's our job to create. And then he talks about the mind paradigm. And, this idea that it can get better and you need to work for it. Freedom is not free. You need to get emotionally involved and it will manifest. Have clearly defined goals. You need to ask you questions. Do you have a goal? Is it clearly defined? And then he would talk about money, that earning is an expression of your beliefs. And, you need to set an inner understanding. And then you get back to the stick person about this idea that, just get a picture of what's going on, about your mind, your ability to choose, and that your emotional mind, here's a really big idea. Your emotional mind cannot reject. So and that's the idea of this repetition, is that your emotional mind cannot reject. So if you keep putting these ideas consciously into your subconscious mind, it can't reject them. So you're taking it back to Bob's ideas, how to change a thought. Well, take a new thought and add it in. So you take these new thoughts, you get emotionally connected to it, and over time, you get emotional to it. Over time, they become part of you. Your subconscious mind cannot reject a thought that you get emotionally involved in. And Bob would say, you're going to win or your paradigm's going to win. So you need to change the paradigm. And you'd also say things like, nothing is difficult. It's all thinking. Think of the idea. And he'd always challenge you to step out of your comfort level, right? Do something you are uncomfortable to step out of your box. It's like you got to get into a zone where you're uncomfortable, because that's where all the change lies. That's where creativity comes out. I mean, being comfortable is one thing, and he would say you need to be comfortable at least at a certain level so you can get creative. And once you start getting creative, you need to take the next step, and that's getting out of your comfort level. Now, Bob had a lot of advice for professionals, and that is a pro is at his best regardless. And he would say, to be able to shape your future, you have to be willing to change your paradigm. And he'd remind us that the world we grew up in is gone forever. And begin right now to build a better world for yourself. If you build the idea, it has to come to pass. It is law. And he would say this a lot too. Focus. Give energy to what you're doing. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. You can do something better than everyone you meet, and they can do something better than you. And he would just say that, and that speaks to our own personal power, that you are not insignificant, and that you can do something better than everyone you meet, and that other person can do something better than everyone they meet. And so the idea is to stop being a victim, get into your power. Know that we don't have limits. We may have limiting beliefs, but we don't have limits. And get going. And Bob would always quote other great people. I have a quote here from Abraham Lincoln. To believe in the unseen is a triumph and a blessing, right? And he would also say things like, discover silence, which speaks to your inner self. Discover silence. Ooh, I got so many notes here. We got cause and effect. Emerson called this the law of laws. You reap what you sow. Whatever you put out will come back. And then he would go into the law of compensation off the laws and cause effect. Law of compensation, Bob, you hear Bob say this a lot. So the law of compensation is based on the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty in replacing you. And so the idea is just keep getting better at what you do. Focus on what you do. If you get so good at what you do, there will be difficulty in replacing you. There's a need for there's a need for what you do. There's a need for, the world has so many needs. But how good are you at it? How good can you get at it? So you say things like, give wherever you can. Giving is the law of abundance. Like causes produce like effects. And if you get into opportunity, that we have unlimited abundance everywhere. There's no end to that. You just have to shift your thinking. Create a new paradigm. Build an image of the good you desire. Get emotionally involved. Use your imagination. And that opportunity is everywhere. You have to expand your consciousness. You have to expect it. You have to desire. And he would often quote Napoleon Hill. It would say you have to demand. You'd have to demand this. I think it was from Andrew Carnegie, that you demand what you want in definitive terms. And one thing about Bob, too, is he would always make it about helping other people. It's like, if you want to get what you want out of life, help someone else get what they want. Help them build their business. Another thing Bob would say, I have a note here, and it says, the universe likes speed. And I believe that's true. The universe does like speed. So the idea is, though, if you have an idea, take action on it. Action creates attraction. And so these are like just some really big ideas that Bob has given us. And so here's a chart I had on discipline, because Bob, once again, we said discipline. That's your ability to follow your command. It helps you get unstuck. Discipline leads to freedom, and discipline, creates control. Control creates results. Helps you get unstuck. Helps you create change, and ultimately, it creates freedom. And so Bob talks about habits. Create better habits. Create habits about giving your time, your talent, your treasure. Create habits. You can create writing exercises to do daily. So Bob would say, write your goals out daily. And that's not just Bob. I've heard other people say this, but Bob really, really would emphasize that. Write your goals out daily. Create habits of discipline. Here's one. Create habits of presence. How present are you around people? With your family, with your friends, with your associates. Create habits of study. What are you doing daily? And so study will increase awareness. And when you increase your awareness, you have better understanding. Through better understanding comes better decisions. So you might hear Robin Sharma say that all the time. Through better awareness comes better understanding. Through better understanding comes better decisions. When you increase your awareness, you see opportunities where you didn't see them before. Create habits with your imagination. Visualize. Do it daily. Create habits with money. Do you have a savings habit? Do you have an earnings habit? Do you have an investing habit? And create habits of service. Developing new ways to serve people. Daily ways. Can you increase your value for the products and services you provide? Another thing Bob was big on was this idea of decision. That you need to make the decision. The universe will supply you with what you need. However, you need to make the decision. All the power is in the decision. And that's where the commitment is. And Bob would talk about willpower. The will. Your ability to see the outcome. Your ability to access a higher faculty of your mind. Your will feeds your desire. Your will, you got to stay within, willpower for your expectations, for your manifestation, for your imagination. You need willpower to get what you want out of life. And maybe we'll end on this one today. And if you've been around Bob for any bit of time, you've probably heard him speak about gratitude. In The Science of Getting Rich, Wallace Wattles has a whole chapter on gratitude. And Bob, I studied this book with Bob, and Bob had his whole thing on gratitude. But generally, Bob would suggest that you take time each day and review things you're grateful for. He'd even challenge you to write down maybe 10 things that you're grateful for. And he said gratitude is what keeps us connected to our source of supply. This is what gets us our mental atonement. And this is where the power is. And this is something we can do every day. And it's one of those things that changes your vibration. I mean, think of something you're really grateful for. How does it make you feel? And so that's the idea. The idea is to feel better in your body. And the better we feel, the better we feel about doing things. The better we do things, the more focus we can put towards things. And so gratitude is maybe a great place to start. And I'm grateful for Bob Proctor. I'm grateful for what he's done for me, for people I know, and for people I don't know. And when I'm grateful that he was able to put it in a medium that will be around for generations to come. And so even though Bob Proctor may no longer be here physically, his spirit moves on, and his legacy is here, and his teachings and his products are here. And if you apply a little bit of repetition to Bob's teachings, you can make great changes in your own personal life. I've done it myself, and I've seen others do it with dramatic results. So, for that, this is the Self-Help Workshop. I'm John Farr, and for the workshop today, the challenge is to go back and listen to this, 3 times. Let's add a little repetition to your life, and let's listen to this podcast 3 times, and see if you can find one of these big ideas and start to put it to work in your life. All right. Wishing you all the best. Take care.